Once again, how about a little thought experiment? This tennis ball is as big as my head. Or is it really just the size of my nose, which is still fairly sizable, but it's different than how it originally looks because the camera lens has only one perspective. It has no other source that will give you a little better perspective on the size of the tennis ball or the size of my nose. So, as a little metaphor, just a reminder as we've been looking at faith and science that one perspective, while it does allow you to see, it doesn't give you depth or the relief that it might exist when you're looking at something. And so my hope as we continue to look at faith and science issues is that we want to have both eyes, in a sense, seeing things and informing one another in order to give us that depth and relief that exists in reality. Again, my name is Mark Epperson. I enjoy these topics of faith and science. And after the last one, I had a couple people say, hey, what happened to the tennis ball? So I wanted to bring the tennis ball back just, again, to remind us of what it is we're sort of trying to do. And then, secondly, I wanted to look again at the Psalmist and the scientist, because I feel like there's a lot more there to talk about. And it would have dragged on a bit too much in the first one. Also, hope you had a fantastic 4th of July. I'm grateful that we can live in a place where we're free to discuss ideas like this and perhaps even disagree about them, but we get to do it openly, freely, and hopefully with respect. So when we come back to the astronomer, I'll think about my scientist. It's important for any of us that do have faith to realize just how much of a contribution has been made by the scientific eye. Probably when the psalmist wrote Psalm 8 and looked into the night sky and was considering the stars and the moon and things that had been set there, they had no idea of the distances that we're talking about. I mean, the moon, the light that comes from the moon takes a second and a half. It's not too long, but it's still, we're seeing what happened a second and a half ago on the moon, which isn't much these days. If it's from Pluto, I mean, it's several hours ago that we're seeing. The closest star to our solar system, Proxima Centauri, is a little over 4 light years away. So the things we're seeing happened 4 years ago. And so these distances and the size of the universe, that there are 200 billion stars just in the Milky Way. So when we look up at the night sky and see those stars, I mean, it's difficult to even wrap our head around it. But the astronomer is looking at those stars and has been making amazing discoveries that are important for us. And one of the most interesting, at least to me, is that every atom in your body apparently was once part of a star that then novaed and sent all those elements out. So in fact, we wouldn't even have the heavy elements that make up our body prior to a couple generations of stars going nova. So when we come to the psalmist, who is exploring the stars and asking a metaphysical question, you know, what is a human being that you care for him or for her? That this is now informed, when we read it, when we ask the same kinds of questions, now it's informed by an even greater understanding of the depths of the universe, how far we can see. I read somewhere we can see roughly 20 quadrillion miles if we just look that way and stare that way. That's how far you're looking with your gaze at night. So the psalmist now, and we'll put ourselves in that place of saying, what is a human being in the midst of all this expanse that you care for them? And I said a few things in the first video about that, how the psalmist and the scientist are pretty similar, that they're asking big questions about meaning and so on. What I want us just to consider is that the answer, in a curious way, that the stars give us, that our very being begins with stars and their explosions. The answer that the psalmist is at least exploring is something that we begin to get a better sense of as faith history moves on. In the Hebrew there, that word for to care for is kind of maybe better translated as to worry about or to see what is missing. When you worry about someone, you're like, I think something might be missing. What could I do about it? And the answer for people of faith, that at least out of my tradition as a believer in Jesus, is that the answer to that care for is found about 10 centuries later in the person of Jesus, who comes, lives, dies, is resurrected, and that is the deepest care for, the answer to our deepest worry that can be found. So the psalmist, in looking up at the expanse of the universe, asked the question, what is a human being that you care for them? And the intent of that question is, what is it that you do to address our deepest need? Finds its answer in the person of Jesus. So what I've enjoyed about these, I think I've got creatures crawling on me, that when we look with both eyes, the faith eye looks at the stars and sees something of creativity in it, and we believe we are made in the image of a creative God. The science side sees that expanse, asks questions about meaning, and the two eyes together give us a sense of just how immense the universe is, and then making the question of what is it that we are cared for. And then when, at least in the answer of Jesus, is this idea that his death on a cross is somehow meaningful, well, then there's a lot more to think about there. If our two eyes of faith and science coming together see that as some sort of an answer to our being cared for, there's something big going on. So anyway, my thoughts on continuing of faith and science. I hope you'll consider sharing some of your own faith and science discoveries or explorations. I'd love to hear about them. I'm happy for your comments. If I can address them, I will try to do that as well. But thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.